The most anticipated release, the new Red Hot Chili Peppers album. It's now more than 4 years since their magnificent breakthrough, Blood Sugar Sex Magik. But don't think the band has just been sitting back enjoying the success of that record for all that time. As has always been the case with the Chili Peppers, there's been more trauma and heartache around the band in the last few years. The sudden departure of guitarist John Frusciante just prior to their scheduled tour of Australia in '92 was a problem that remained unresolved until the start of '94. That was when Dave Navarro, ex-Jane's Addiction, finally ended months of speculation and signed up with the band. Breaking him into the ranks of the Chili Peppers was hard work, especially when surrounding his arrival was the near-nervous breakdown that Flea was pulling himself out of, as well as the reported drug abuse that singer Anthony Kiedis was falling back into. In light of these circumstances, you would have betted anything against the chances of this new album being any good. Well, truth is, One Hot Minute is not just a good album, it's a great album. An album that hears the Chili Peppers trying out new styles and sounds, and, as Navarro puts it, exercising some of the demons along the way. So how has Dave Navarro found it, fitting into the Chili Peppers?
Sometimes it's very difficult, other times it's extremely easy. There was a preconceived idea of this band, or I had a preconceived idea that they were all about like partying and having fun and being kind of wacky characters, which I don't necessarily fit into that mold. But after investigating what these guys are like as human beings and as musicians, I've learned that that was nothing but my own stereotype, and that these guys really are down to earth and they really do love to work on great music together, and all that stuff is kind of for their alter egos, and if I don't necessarily want to be a part of that, I don't have to be.
Professionally, they really wanted you to be in the band. How much pressure did that put on you initially?
There was really no initial pressure per se because I wanted to be in this band. My main attraction to being in this band was due to the fact that they're such gifted, talented musicians, and they come from a different place than I do musically, and I knew that it would be a growing process for me as a musician to play with these guys.
Yeah, Dave has been a real sort of shot in the arm for us, and Flea is feeling really good, and Anthony, everyone's very excited about it. We're gonna rock like pigs.
Chad Smith, drummer with the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
I feel like we're at another sort of beginning of another band. It's like a new band. I mean, I love Jane's Addiction. I think Jane's Addiction was one of the best rock bands, if not the best rock band in like the last 10 years. And I've always been a big fan, and we all have, of his playing and his musicianship. And that was another thing why, right when John quit, we thought, Dave Navarro, that's like the guy that we should be in our band, And we were just lucky and fortunate that things worked out the way they did, that he would join our band. And actually, I saw him at the Whiskey, and I put a gun to his head, and I said, if you don't join our band, I'm going to shoot you. And so he joined.
Nothing is the same, so we keep moving. We keep moving.
I do what I do, and I kind of have like my own vibe in the studio, which is that I just like a lot of guitars. I like big guitars, and I like overdubs, and I like colors, and when I listen to music, I want to see colors. I don't want it to be in black and white. I want to be able to make a record that when you put on headphones, you hear something different every time. There were times when I couldn't even find a space to come up with an idea, you know what I mean, when we were just jamming. But then other times it just kind of flowed. I think one of the main problems we had at the beginning was Flea tried to alter his bass playing to complement my playing, and I tried to alter my playing to complement his. And that was completely unnatural for both of us. And what we ended up doing is, after experimenting with that for a couple months and coming to the conclusion that it didn't work, we both went back to what we both love to do on our own. And a lot of times it really worked together. Sometimes it clashed, but that's kind of the process of like mixing it up and throwing it against a wall and seeing what happens.
Flea, bass player and founding member of the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
After we finished touring on the Blood Sugar Sex Magik tour, we toured really hard and for a really long time. And the past few years were basically the lowest, worst time of my entire life. After that tour, I completely broke down physically, spiritually, emotionally. I just lost it. I cracked. My whole life fell to pieces, you know, and...
Can you pinpoint why?
Well, it was like just where my life headed me to, you know. I think all of my life I've been a very hectic, wild, manic person with extremely high highs and extremely low lows. I also didn't treat myself very well physically. I mean, through the years, I did lots of drugs. I didn't eat right. I wouldn't sleep right. I, basically thought I was Superman and I could do anything I wanted to do. You know, for lots of reasons. I was just hectic. I was crazed. And, I worked real hard on tour. I'd gone through a stressful time. I'd gotten divorced. I was away from my kid. I was on the road. I couldn't sleep, you know. And my body just finally said, hey, fuck you, man. You know, you're not getting out of bed. And it was a very difficult thing for me because I've always been someone who's relied on, I've been bursting with energy my entire life, you know, and all of a sudden I was just couldn't do anything. And I became very sad, very lonely, very distrustful, very, just a miserable person. And in retrospect now, that's the best thing that ever happened to me, getting like that. Because of that, I was forced to really examine myself and to learn a lot of things about myself and to learn a lot of things about living, which I did. And I worked really hard on myself spiritually and emotionally. I've come to be a happier person I've ever been in my life, and I feel great now, and I feel so much wiser, and I feel like I've learned and grown as a human being and growing up to be a kinder, more sensitive person, which is what it's all about.
So you very much were responsible for pulling yourself out of it?
Yeah. I mean, there was no one that could have done it but me. You know what I mean? I had to, and it took me time. It took me time to learn to be an accepting person, and to learn to look inside myself, and to be humble and to find fault with myself and to recognize my faults and my shortcomings and my defects and to work on them. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm still far from perfect, I'm still pretty much too spontaneous and wild of a person to be perfect, but I'm trying. I realize that there's really nothing more important in the world to me than just being a kind person. So that's what I'm trying to get to.
There are no saints in this land. I'll be doing all I can. Live or die an honest man. Confusion in my middle name. Ask me again, I'll tell you the same. Persuaded by one sexy day.
It's ironic in a way that you kind of went to such depths in your life, kind of like the year or 2 years after the huge success that you are now enjoying.
Well, I know you would think, you work all your life and then find all of a sudden, you're selling a zillion records and making all this money and traveling around the world and stuff. And that really that's not the thing that got to me. It wasn't that, because it wasn't like the Red Hot Chili Peppers had overnight success. This band's been together for 13 years. We've been working our asses off like crazy the whole time, playing. And every time we play, we give every ounce of energy in our bodies. We give, everything that we have. It was like, if we had been an overnight success, I could see that being a really difficult thing to deal with, such as people I know, who have become very successful in a short period of time have a much more difficult time dealing with it. But we've been around for a long time. It's not like we're standing on top of a flagpole. We're standing on top of a mountain. Touring on the last record was a definite, very stressful thing for me. Like I said, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat. I was just wigging out the whole time. My eyes looked like 2 fried eggs, you know what I mean? I was running around like crazy and not resting, and you can't do that. Eventually you've got to rest and eat and take care of yourself. Obviously, being in a situation that I'm in, everything's going to be more extreme. Traveling around the world, playing for bazillions of people, doing all this, I'm going to be in situations, but it's up to me to handle those situations. It's not up to anyone else. I choose to do what I do. I love to do what I do, and I respect myself for doing what I do. I think what I'm doing is a good thing. It's like, how many times does a guy have to, how many times does it take me to learn the lesson that sex without love is terrible, that sex without love is nothing, that sex without love is bad for your soul, it hurts you.
Reports have been filtering back to Australia this year about the state of Anthony Kiedis' health. Now, cutting through the euphemisms, it's been reported that Anthony has resumed his drug habit, and that's the reason why the album took nearly a year to finish. Listening to the lyrics of a lot of the songs, especially the title track, there seems to be a lot of references to drugs and drug taking.
First of all, One Hot Minute is the name of the record. It's also the name of a song on the record, but it's not necessarily the title track. It just seemed to be a title that encompassed the nature of being and how quickly our lives transpire in the wink of an eye. And I think that feeling comes across in the record in a lot of different ways. That's why we called it One Hot Minute.
3 pounds of love inside my skull. A million more lives it's never goes. Just a few times spun around the sun. A couple more lessons, then we're done. Sitting in
that song is really about acknowledging how incredibly small we are and how incredibly small this lifetime is, and to make the most of it and to treat people with all the love and respect that you can while they're still alive, because tomorrow they might be gone. And it isn't inspired by drug use so much, but I think everything that I do will have a certain indication of my past, which includes drug addiction and misery and tragedy, but it's about learning from that and moving on.
We heard some kind of superficial rumours about why the album was taking so long to record, and one of the reasons was that you were taking a while to get your lyrics and singing parts down. Was that why the record took so long?
The record took exactly how long it was meant to take. Rumors will happen all the time. I've heard a lot of asinine rumors myself. There were a million reasons why it took this long. We had to get to know Dave. I had to get to know myself. Flea had to, find spiritual happiness in his life, and it all combined to make a really good record, I think.
How's your state of mind and also your health been in the last year while all the process of putting the record together was going on?
Up and down, but right now I feel great, and I feel more excited about going out to play these songs live than I felt in about 4 years, and I feel good.
I think I'll go on a walkabout and find out what it's all about. And that ain't hard. Just me and my own 2 feet. In the heat, I got myself to meet. A detective of perspective, I need to try and get a bigger eye. Bloodwood flowers in my gaze, walk about in the sunny days. Do me now. On a walkabout. You could do it in the city, you could do it in a zone, you could do it in the desert, you could do the unknown on a walkabout. Desert skies are what I spy, so fly, you gotta wonder why. The stingrays must be fat this year. I'm moving slow in my lowest gear. The didgeridoo original man with the dream, I believe the Aborigine. On a walkabout. You could do it with the shuffle, you could do it with the stroll, you could do it with the stride, you could do the unknown on a walkabout. A walk could kill most all my blues, bare feet or in my 2 shoes. 1, 2.
The new album, One Hot Minute, from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, on Triple J.
There's another song on this record that Anthony and I co-wrote the words for, and it's probably my favorite song on the record, and I love all the songs on this record, but the one that's really close to me is a song called Transcending, and it's the last song on the record, and it's about my friend River Phoenix, who was someone who I was very close to, and whose death was a really tragic loss, and he was someone that understood things about me that no one else will ever understand. He was able to look inside of me and really see a lot of things about me, you know, as far as like my own fear and my weakness and my pain. And he was just the kindest person I ever met in my life. And that song's for him. And it means a lot to me, just because, you know, he means a lot to me.
How did that feel to actually come across someone in life who was able to see inside you?
You know how when some people get to know you and they start to see your weaknesses and find your insecurities or your fears or whatever, and they take advantage of them, you know. And River was just the kind of person that totally, like, right away, like, sussed me out and, like, knew, like, where I hurt and what my problems were. And he just, like, you know, he just loved me for my weakness, you know, which is really an admirable quality in any human being. And he was just an amazing guy. He was an incredible, creative, just a great guy, you know, one-of-a-kind person, you know, the type of person that I will always hold close to my heart.
My God, you are my dog. You kept me close, love never lost. I called you here, but you said fuck off. Said your brother's a real pawn. Something gonna happen, or something bad soon. Transcending flesh could be a breeze, sending me load over the moon. Friends near death, you gave respect, sympathetic intellect. Choices are for one and all. All we are at least that fall. That's all. Always been loving you. Now I'm away from you. Always been loving you. Inside your head, smartest fucker I ever met. Vicious fish bit at your toes, made you lie and numb your soul. Something gonna happen, or something very soon. Transcending flesh could be a breeze, sending me load of the moon. You donkey ass, you bore the load of all creation's tortured souls. Choices are for one and all. All we are at least that fall. Like no other, I love you, you're my brother. Like no other, I love you, you're my brother. Like no other, I love you, you're my brother. Like no other, I love you, you're my brother. Like no other, I love you, you're my brother. Like no other, I love you, you're my brother. Water flowing and I will drink it.
this record definitely comes out of a dark period for us. Well, first of all, obviously, I went through a really dark time. Anthony was confronting his own problems, problems that he had to deal with. And making this record was a really healing thing for me, and it was kind of like the thing for me that got me back together as a human being, and now I'm just so proud of it. I feel like it's the best record we ever made. I feel that we've grown and changed a lot, and I just, I couldn't be happy with it, and I'm actually, for the first time in years, like totally excited about touring with this band and getting out and getting busy and doing it. Hello, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
It was probably the one experience in my life that brought me closest to death and saved me from death at the same time.
This new Red Hot Chili Pepper record is called One Hot Minute. And the reason it is called One Hot Minute is it's basically about every minute that you have is the most important minute in your life.
Flea has a house in Australia.
Because my friends are way more important to me than any so-called success.
It's a good headphone record, so you pot smokers out there, do some bong hits and put the headphones on.
I like pleasure spiked with pain, and music is my aeroplane. It's my aeroplane. Pleasure spiked with pain.
My biggest problem is just that it's just so white, I guess. I'm used to living in LA and dealing with like so many different kinds of people, and everywhere I go in Australia, it's just like white, 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 white. Everything's really white.
Hey, this is Chad from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Dave Sardi, who engineered and helped Rick with the mix, did a great job.
I trip around as much as I can. I haven't been inland that much. I spent most of my time on the coast.
Actually, we found Dave in Rick's beard. It was where Dave came out of. I just reached in and pulled Dave out of his beard.
People think they're so powerful because they're dealing with these meaningless things that they can control.
In a situation where you have four very distinct individual creative people, that we were all forced to go to a new place, and the last 2 years of my life have been two of the most meaningful ever, and making this record was a huge part of it, and I think in a lot of ways it saved my life.
Drummer Chad Smith.
Anthony, I tell you, man, I think it would be so hard to try to come up with lyrics and melodies for like 15 interesting things to sing about, and that is something that I can't do and would never want to, especially in this band, because he's really good at it. I'm a bumbling idiot when it comes to that kind of thing.
Could you turn up the track a little bit, please?
All I know is that I had a lot inside of me that had to come out in the form of musical exorcism, and I feel probably more comfortable now than ever before vocalizing in this band. It's just something I've gotten a little bit better at and a little bit more comfortable with, and I think relaxation is the key to honest expression. Just be as you are and let that be captured. This record is who we are. We're not hiding anything.
Great. Why don't we start off then by talking about Aeroplane?
I love Aeroplane. It feels really good to sing that song. It feels great to sing it because lyrically, when I got the feeling that turned out to be the lyrics of that song, I was sitting in a restaurant in Hollywood surrounded by a bunch of people that I could not relate to, and I felt completely misunderstood and isolated from the world, which is how I feel sometimes. And I heard a song, and I can't even remember what it was, but that song completely took me to a place of peace and comfort. And that's what music frequently does for me. When I just can't take the insanity of my environment, I can disappear into a cloud of music, and for a while, I'm able to breathe freely.
I like pleasure spiked with pain, and music is my aeroplane. It's my aeroplane. Songbird sweet and sour Jane, and music is my aeroplane. It's my aeroplane. Pleasure spiked with pain. That motherfucker's always spiked with pain. Before I start to decompose, looking in my rear inside of me. I'm overcoming gravity. I'm overcoming gravity. It's easy when you're sad to be. It's easy when you're sad. Sad like me. I like pleasure spiked with pain, and music is my aeroplane. It's my aeroplane. Somber, sweet and sour Jane, and music is my aeroplane. It's my aeroplane. Pleasure spiked with pain. Just one note can make me float away. One note from the song she wrote could fuck me where I lay. Just one note can make me choke, one note that's not a lie. Just one note could cut my throat, one note could make me die. I like pleasure spiked with pain, and music is my aeroplane. It's my aeroplane. Somber, sweet and sour Jane, and music is my aeroplane. It's my aeroplane. Let's fight with pain.
Who are the kids?
The kids are from a school called the Little Red Schoolhouse here in Hollywood, led by fearless young Clara Balzery, daughter of Flea.
Ah, so she's on it.
Yeah, 6 and 7-year-old, 5, 6 and 7-year-old singing. With Flea actually as the ringmaster that day in the studio. He was in charge of arousing the troops.
He was the conductor, if you like.
He was, and he's great at it. He relates to kids so well.
Don't know who it was. I think it might have been Flea in a previous interview talking about how kids relate to the Red Hot Chili Peppers music. You still think that's pretty much the case?
It can't be denied. From the very first demo tape that we ever made, Flea and I went to New York City with our demo tape that we were very proud of and played it wherever we went on the streets of New York. And little kids everywhere completely rocked out to our music, irregardless of their parents' desires for them to get away from us and our music. We connect with kids, and that's one of the greatest compliments that I can think of, because they're so pure and untainted that it lets you know that you're definitely doing something right when kids can dig it.
So do you think there's a big difference in how kids listen to music as opposed to adults?
I think there's a big difference between everything that kids do versus the way adults do it. I mean, they're not yet jaded freaks.
It was actually at school in Los Angeles where Anthony and Flea first met. Their experiences growing up in Hollywood are written about in another one of the album's highlights called Deep Kick. It tells of the highs and lows of two very close friends.
Yeah, we've been an inseparable two-headed monster since we met about 18, 17 years ago. We've been really, really close, which works to our advantage and our disadvantage, you know. I mean, it works to our advantage because we love each other deeply, and we have a telepathic communication and understanding of one another that is really amazing. But on the other hand, we know each other so well that we can really get on each other's nerves, you know, and it's very difficult to deal with a lot of situations in the band. If we were dealing on a level, sometimes I think if it was like if we weren't so close, we'd be able to deal more objectively and not like we can get really upset at each other really easily just because we know each other so well, and you know how you can hurt the people that you love the most, the quickest and the easiest.
Like family in a way.
Yeah, exactly, like family. But it's like, can you imagine if you, I don't know if you have a brother or sister, but if you like had to go on tour with them and live with them in a bus for 2 years and like eat, shit, sleep, fuck in the same place for, you know, for forever and ever. And we've been doing it for 13 years, you know, it's pretty intense. But I wouldn't trade it for anything.
It started when we were little kids. Free spirits, but already tormented by our own hands, given to us by our parents. We got together and wrote on desks and slept in laundry rooms near snowy mountains, and slipped through whatever cracks we could find, minds altered, we didn't falter, in portraying hysterical and tragic characters in a small-filled universe. We loved the dirty city, and the journeys away from it. We had not yet been or seen our friends, selves, chase tails round and round in downward spiral, leaving a trail of irretrievable vital life juice behind. Still, the brothers' blood, comrades, partner, family cause was impenetrable, and we lived inside it, laughing with no clothes. And everything experimental till death was upon us, and our face mortality. And lots of things seemed futile then, but love and music can save us, and did, while the giant gray monster grew more poisoned and volatile around us, jaws clamping down and spewing ugly shit around. Nothing is the same, so we keep moving. We keep moving.
That's Deep Kick off One Hot Minute by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. On Triple J, his guitarist, Dave Navarro.
My Friends is a track I think at this stage right now is my favorite track on the album, just probably because it's the most pop-oriented song that I've ever been a part of, and the lyrics and the feeling of the song are still coming from a melancholy place.
My friends are so depressed. I feed a question of your loneliness. Confide, 'cause I'll be on your side. You know I will. You know I will. Ex-girlfriend called me up alone.
Anthony Kiedis.
There was a period of my life about 2 years ago where I looked around myself and all of the people that I really cared about and really loved were having incredibly difficult times in their lives, and I saw people dying, and I saw people losing their minds and going insane, and I saw people disappearing into isolation and negativity, and I didn't understand why everybody that I seemed to care about was going crazy. And I just asked myself, what is it that I can do to somehow be of service to these people, to support them? And I realized it was just about always being there with love and respect for people that you care about at all times, regardless of their state of mind, because that's all I can really give.
And did it work?
It worked for me.
Do you feel like it seeped across, it went across to someone else?
Yeah, things are getting better. Definitely.
Do you feel like you left many friends behind with all the success that the Chili Peppers had a few years ago?
Never, because my friends are way more important to me than any so-called success. I really love my friends, and they make this lifetime 1,000 times more meaningful to me.
Oh, God, I don't know. You know...
What feels good to you? If you say you're a fan of the Chili Peppers, and you're listening to the record for the first time, what would leap out? Chad Smith.
What would leap out at me? Pee. Being a very stripped down, honest feeling of Fleas has a moment there.
I'm a little pea. I love the sky and the trees. I'm a teeny tiny little ant, checking out this and that. And I am nothing. So you have nothing to hide. And I'm a pacifist, so I can fuck your shit up. Oh yeah, I'm small. Oh yeah, I'm small. Fuck you, asshole. You homophobic redneck dick. Big and tough and macho, you can kick my ass. So fucking what? So fucking what? So fucking what? So fucking what? I'm a nature boy, I like being in nature. When I'm in the city for too long, I start to feel too self-important. It's kind of like when you live in the city, you're dealing with things that are really meaningless, like money and material objects and houses and cars and getting places and appointments and meetings, and all these things become so important, and you start thinking that you're such a powerful person. Everyone, people think they're so powerful because they're dealing with these meaningless things that they can control. But when you get out into nature and you're dealing with things that are actually really meaningful, things like, sky, water, dirt, rocks, wildlife, animals, you, at least I do, I get out there, I start to become very small, I start to become very humble, and I start to become just a little teeny little pea of a guy, and that's where I like to be. That's what makes me happy. So that's what I long to do. That's what I live for. That's what makes my heart shake.
Born in Melbourne, Flea has also spent a lot of time living here in Australia over the last couple of years.
My house in Australia is on the southeast coast, the southeast part of New South Wales, the south coast. I love Australia. I love the space. I love the sky. I love, the air. I love the water. I think it's a beautiful place, and I am going to move there and live there because I love Australia so much. I mean, I was born there. And I'm crazy about the place. I have a few problems with it. But
like what?
My biggest problem is just that it's just so white, I guess. I'm used to living in LA and dealing with so many different kinds of people, and everywhere I go in Australia, it's just like white, 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 white. Everything's really white. But I'll get over it. I like it. I mean, there's different things about it that I could find to enjoy.
You becoming a father as well in the last couple of years, what sort of effect has that had?
Well, my daughter's 6 years old, and it's undoubtedly had a profound effect on me. I love her. Everything I do for her. And that's one of the reasons I want to, move to Australia, is because it's just a much better place for a kid to grow up than in Los Angeles. When I'm in Australia, she can go outside and run and play and have a good time. And, in Hollywood, I wouldn't leave her out of my sight for 1 second, ever. But it has changed me as a person. I think more in terms of growing up with her and thinking about the future and thinking about, how I want to give her every opportunity that she could have and be there and be a loving father for her and give her a lot of the things that I didn't get a chance to have when I was a kid.
Dave just told me that the touring is going to last for about 2 years and it starts September.
Don't believe Dave. He's a fabricator. He tells fairy tales on and off for 2 years, but not 2 years straight. And we'll be over in Australia in the beginning of next year.
I know all four of us have undergone some incredible changes in the past 2 years. And even before I joined the band, the remaining three had undergone tremendous losses of loved ones, River Phoenix and John Frusciante. And I think this record was a natural therapeutic process for all of us. A lot of demons were exorcised during the making of this record.
Every record is a very beautiful and honest expression of that period of time in our lives, as is this one. We have 6 records now, and it's like a little kid growing up or something. Looking at the school pictures from first grade through high school or something.
How old do you feel now?
We've got whiskers now.
You've got whiskers now. Oh, adolescence is kind of hit.
Just barely, yeah.
Great. Well, that's good news for Red Hot Chili Peppers fans in the future. For all the people who whinged and complained for how long it took, I think it's pretty much well worth the wait.
Right. Well, we had to go through what we had to go through to write the record, and if we hadn't gone through what we went through, we wouldn't have made the record that we made. People have to deal with their emotions and confront them, and learn and grow and change. Because an artist that doesn't learn and grow and change is dead.